What an honor to be up here today at my 18th OFN conference, addressing you all at a critical moment for our industry. We're in a period of real change in Washington, D.C. With the new administration comes a new policy lens, and that brings uncertainty and possibility. These shifts can feel unsettling, especially after years of momentum for CDFIs. But change doesn't have to mean retreat. It means we adapt and we lead. This year has tested us in new ways, but at the same time, we've made real strides. When challenged by executive actions this spring, we worked with policymakers in the administration and on Capitol Hill to reinforce the important work of CDFIs. We scored a major legislative victory with the permanent extension of the New Markets Tax Credit, thanks to many of you right in this room who worked tirelessly to build support in Congress. And the bipartisan Senate CDFI caucus continues to grow. There are now 30 members from across the political spectrum, from some of the most conservative to some of the most progressive members of Congress, all committed to working together in support of economic opportunity. And we have momentum on major CDFI legislative priorities on housing and liquidity that could unlock new tools and resources to deploy capital. And we have accomplished many of these things because of our strong support on Capitol Hill, and I know that firsthand. The OFN policy team has held more than 200 Hill meetings this year, bringing your stories and impact directly to policymakers. Yes, we've certainly been busy, but this new environment also required us to show up in different ways for our network. We knew we needed to bring you the latest information and calls to action in a timely manner. So this year, we launched a weekly newsletter to keep the industry informed about breaking news in Washington, D.C. We expanded our engagement. Thousands of you have joined our policy webinars, which were monthly, then bi-weekly, then weekly, as part of our commitment to keep you updated in a fast-changing environment. And we deepened our partnerships with industry coalitions, working late nights and weekends to amplify our strategies and our collective voice. We brought more of you to Capitol Hill with us. We hosted several fly-ins this year with our policy leaders, board members, and state coalition partners. But there is so much more to do. So where do we go from here as OFN and as the CDFI industry? We know that we need more allies and champions, and that's where we're putting our energy. First, we stay united. This industry is strongest when we speak with one voice. Urban and rural and native, large and small, loan funds, banks, and credit unions, we share one mission, and policymakers need to see that unity. Second, we stay engaged. We bring solutions, not just requests, showing how to make federal programs more effective and partnerships more impactful. And third, we do what we do best. We keep showing up, making calls, sending letters, sharing our reach and our impact, and engaging directly with policymakers. This afternoon, about 150 of us will head up to Capitol Hill with meetings for meetings with legislators and staff, even in the middle of a government shutdown. We'll be carrying the message of what CDFIs mean for communities across the country. We are deeply grateful for our champions in Congress, including Representative Kim and Senator Warner, for their ongoing support of CDFIs. Even if you aren't going to the Hill with us today, you can still help grow that support. Go into the conference app, and under the OFN resources, you can find our Policy Action Center. So take a moment today to encourage your Republican members of Congress to sign on to the letter supporting the CDFI Fund. A strong showing of support reinforces the broad appeal of our work. As we look ahead, I want to leave you with this. Our story isn't defined by perfect conditions or easy politics. It's defined by how we lead, how we adapt, and how we stay focused on impact. And a new place where we're defining that impact is at the state and local level. In just a moment, you'll hear from leaders who are driving change in their own backyards. These CDFI leaders are working on the ground and shaping change in real time. Their work is essential because while Washington is a powerful lever, so much of the change that affects communities happens closer to home. So please join me in welcoming our panelists, and let's continue this conversation from the national stage to the places where Capitol truly meets community.
Thank you, Dafina. I'm Mary Scott Balys, Senior Vice President for Public Policy here at OFN, and I'm so pleased to be joined this morning by 3 CDFI state coalition leaders, Matt, Leah, and Noni. We've heard a lot over the past couple of days about the uncertainty at the federal level, and now we get the chance to talk about the opportunity and the wins that CDFIs are having across this country at the state level. I love to get the more, optimistic section of the plenary. So I want to give our panelists a chance to introduce themselves, and if each of you could tell us about what is driving the need for CDFI advocacy in your state and how your coalition came together. Matt, let's start with you.
Great. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm Matt Hull, the Executive Director with the Texas Association of Community Development Corporations. We're a state trade association representing mostly affordable housing providers, but also CDFIs around the state of Texas. And what's driving our advocacy work these days? In the past, it's really been around funding issues and getting programs at the state level to support CDFIs. I think at this point, it's changing a little bit. It's helping build collaboration among CDFIs in Texas, but it's also helping explain the CDFI field to funders, foundations, even federal regulators as well. So,
great, thank you. Leah?
All right. Hi, good morning. My name is Leah Fremouw. I have the privilege of serving as the board president for the Virginia CDFI Coalition. And we formed in 2021 in response to, simply put, money. We were successful in that year getting a $10 million allocation through our General Assembly. And at that point, the CDFI community started to organize and meet consistently and ultimately formed a 501c3 that supports the work that we do for community. So our mandate right now is for our community. We are advocating for resources to do the work that we do so we can support the small businesses, the housing projects, and the other community development work that will help communities rise together.
Great.
Good morning again. Thank you for having me. Noni Ramos, and I have the honor of serving as CEO of Housing Trust Silicon Valley. We're a loan fund based in Northern California. And I have, for the last 6 years, since 2019, also been a founding member, and serve as the board chair of the California Coalition for Community Investment. Got a few members here. We are a 50-plus membership organization of CDFIs working and based in California. And it's actually our second attempt to come together as a coalition. Many years ago, we tried and we petered out a bit, and we did not do that the second time. And some of the reasons that we come together as an organization, as an entity, is because we want to educate and advocate. We are cross-sector, which I think is one of our superpowers, to be honest with you. We are a cross-sector coalition, and we have been able in just a short 6 years or so to advocate for a CDFI fund at the state level with funding. So that is a lot of what drives our work.
Great, thank you all. We have 3 different states up here that geographically and politically are a bit diverse. So I'd like to hear a little bit about how you would describe the current relationship right now with your state government and their support for CDFIs. And let's start with Leah this time.
Okay. Similar to what Senator Warner said, our work in the Commonwealth has been bipartisan since the beginning. So our relationships and the bills that we've gone through have had support from both sides of the aisle. The agency that we work with at the state, the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, has been a partner since we put the money in their budget. They didn't know we were doing that, but they have been a partner and are really actually very excited that our work is baked in with theirs, because they support housing, Main Street communities and things. And so across the board, that agency has been a partner since the beginning. As Virginia, we have a new governor every 4 years. So the initial allocation was under a Democratic governor. The current Republican governor, Governor Youngkin, actually signed the fund into law. And when we got that statute through, that was a Republican delegate and a Democratic senator that championed that for us. So I think warm would be kind of the description right now, as our opportunity is to educate more people on the work that we do and the stakeholders and elected officials. Once folks understand how we work and why we work, we don't meet a lot of hostility, but it is kind of explaining that hopefully as concisely and as simply as possible, which all of us in this room probably know that's very hard to do. So.
Great. Great, Noni, let's go to you next.
Sure, of course. I would say it's a continuing relationship building part of the work that we do, and we again are now fortunate after receiving some support from foundations, from financial institutions. We actually have a full-time executive director, who I'm sure is here in the audience. There you are, I see him. And we're also going to be adding a policy lead. And the effort is really to, as I said, ensure that our elected officials and our state agencies understand the role of CDFIs as financial first responders. And we have some track record in the state of California of CDFIs being a resource to the state, some in housing. The recent fires earlier this year in LA has actually also brought, again, through a crisis and a tragedy, some opportunity for CDFIs to work collaboratively. Our CDFI fund sits within our Treasury Department at the state level, and so we're not only working with our elected officials to educate, we're also working with state agencies so that we can be that collaborative partner. Overall, that is part of our strategy.
Great.
I'm from Texas. As you can imagine, we have challenges. So when I talk with my colleagues around the country and they're talking about their new $50 million CDFI fund or their this or their that, I'm envious, to be honest. However, I will say that I think the coalition and CDFIs across the state, our relationship with the state government in Texas now is the best it's been in 15, 20 years. Texas CDFI Coalition passed a capital access program, loan loss guarantee fund, back in the late 90s. In my first legislative session working back in 2003, I doubled the state match, what the state of Texas would contribute in loan loss guarantee funds. That very next year, the governor canceled the program. You know, success beget not always success. But these days, we've, through no work of my own, through the work of the CDFIs in Texas, through the LIFT funds, through the People funds, through the BCLs, through the TMFs out there, they've been able to get those programs back, get them funded, and there's more resources at the state level at this point than there have been in recent memory. So I would say things are looking up in Texas.
Great. So coalitions like all of yours have helped make the CDFI voice stronger, and you're talking about that you have the strongest relationship that you've had in a long time. What practical steps have been the most effective, and what things have been the most beneficial for your coalitions to sustain them and grow the impact? Noni, let's start with you this time.
Of course, sure. So we have found that, and you hear this often, that the storytelling and really being able to demonstrate the work of CDFIs. I think often, especially with our elected officials, and we're a big state, right? So we have 80 individuals in our assembly, we have 40 individuals in our Senate, and we have term limits of 12 years. So there's turnover, and so that education is a continual process. But there's nothing like actually bringing the electeds and their staffs to the communities. Very often they know about the work that's happening. They know about that affordable housing project. They know about the small business. They know about the child care or the federally qualified house centers. They don't always know that a CDFI played a role in financing that. And so for us, that's part of the strategy, is to make those connections so that they can understand that organizations like CDFIs are really on the ground providing the resources that are needed for communities to have all of the various access to all those different types of services. And then obviously we also spend time in Sacramento. We now have an annual summit of our coalition. We have an advocacy day. And so it's really spending time there in Sacramento as well as bringing them out to the districts and demonstrating the work.
Great, yeah, we've seen that at the federal level as well. You often go in and talk about a project or an organization, and they know that, but not that it's a CDFI. So glad to see that storytelling happening at the state level as well. Matt, do you want to go?
Yeah, in addition to storytelling and helping train CDFIs on how to be better at storytelling, we've found that the most effective thing for us to do is get out of their way, let them lead at the state capitol. And over the last 15 years, we really invested in advocacy training for our members, both CDCs and CDFIs, reminding them of best practices. You know, send your newsletter to your elected officials, both locally and at the state level. Invite them to all the groundbreakings. Be engaged. Visit them in district as well as here at the Capitol or in Austin, Texas, and be part of their constituency that they hear from. That's the most important thing. And for us, it was not having me being the main lobbyist. It was really getting out of the way, serving as a backbone group, helping promote their interests from within.
And to add to what Matt and Noni said, I think partnerships and meetings are why the Virginia Coalition exists. So the success that we had in 21 and then following was in partnership with the Virginia Bankers Association, the Virginia First Cities, and some other trade groups that represent housing, credit unions, and others. So sometimes these groups, you may not agree on everything, but there might be one issue that around the CDFI work that you can align on and leverage their power within elected officials or the legislature to move your agenda forward. So, you know, kind of think about that. The other piece is two things. The COVID environment really helped us not only secure the initial funding, but facilitated us being able to connect. That virtual environment, which was new to everybody in the world, made the statewide meetings and touch points very easy to facilitate and to follow up on. And so it's not sexy, but it really is the ability to consistently provide a space to have connection, collaborate, and pull the work forward. And for us, it was Zoom, and it's still Zoom. We meet monthly. What started in March of 2021 is now a monthly call that we have. And again, it's not sexy, but it works.
Yeah.
All right, we have a couple minutes left, so I think I have two more questions. I want to talk a little bit about barriers or challenges. Is there any barrier or challenge that you've faced in this work, whether political, resources to build your coalition, or another that you could talk about how you overcame that challenge?
Yeah, I think for us, it really is in Texas, you have to figure out how to have incremental success every 2 years. In Texas, we're on a legislative biennium. We do not allow our legislators to meet full time. You're welcome. And because they would be up to no good if they did. And so we only meet every 2 years for 140 days, and for the first 60 days, no official business can take place unless it's an emergency item as declared by the governor. So during that 80 days sprint, from bill filing through the veto deadline for the governor, you're really trying to promote the interest of the CDFIs. You're trying to coordinate before then. And what we found has worked best is finding policy change that doesn't have a fiscal note. If it has a fiscal note in Texas, if it's pulling money out of general revenue, it's probably dead on arrival. So it's working around the edges, taking that incremental change where we can find it, and promoting the interests of the members within the legislature that way.
Yeah, I think to add to that, it comes down to resources. The Virginia Coalition is mostly volunteer-led. We do have a fellow that is staffing us right now part-time, and that is a new capacity that we've had in the last 2 years. But that comes down to resources. And our ability to secure resources is if the funders and investors and stakeholders know what CDFIs are and how we work. And so back to the storytelling, back to describing and highlighting the communities that we serve, I think that work will open up more resources, but that barrier, it's a big one that we're all working on, and so that's probably our biggest one that we're focused on.
I would agree, and again, we acknowledge how fortunate we are in California. So we've had some very strong support from funders. We were able to, after some strategic planning last year, elect a board, have a full-time executive director, as I said, bring on a policy lead. But resources are also an issue at the state level in California. So while there is the will, there maybe is not always the opportunity. Our CDFI fund, which was initially funded with $50 million over 3 years, is in its final year. And so we have a big push to advocate for additional resources. We don't want that fund to go away, even if the funding might be diminished. We want to make sure that it continues to be part of. And then also bringing other opportunities to the state. It isn't always about the dollars, although they're very important. But what other ways can we collaborate with the state? What other opportunities can we be a partner with them to solve the issues, right? One of the great things about CDFIs is that we leverage And so small investments can have big impacts, and the story of public-private partnership is one that I think really resonates at the state level.
Great. You all have had, such great success across the country. What would you tell a CDFI in the room? What one action could they take to strengthen advocacy at the state level as a closing thought? Who wants to start? Leah?
Sure. I think it's, I think we as a movement and as a sector are humble, and we're here because we seek to serve as individuals and organizations, and that has worked very, very well for a long time, but we need to start to brag and start to be excited and boast about the work that we have the privilege to be part of, because it's those stories, it's the district level projects that we can highlight. And so whether it's your organization sharing those and being very clear on the CDFI involvement, not just the loan amount in the impact story, I think that piece, and getting our borrowers and community leaders to help tell our story. Do you have some key stakeholders or a developer that has a relationship that can brag on the CDFI or the work that you've helped support? So we've got to stop being shy, stop being humble, and even the coalitions, if we are your voice, if your brand and tone of voice is not one for the organization to brag, but how are your coalitions highlighting your work? So look around to your trade associations and your coalitions to do that for you. I think that's where we're going to, turn CDFI into a household name like a credit union and a bank. So,
great. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, I think number one is be present, don't stop. Show up at the Capitol today if you can, show up at your district offices where you can. And then number two is to collaborate amongst yourselves. If you're a CEO or an ED of a large CDFI, take the time to participate in the coalitions and mentor the smaller CDFI executive directors, but allow your staff the time to do that. Maybe it's an hour or two a month. It's not a big lift. And if you're a small CDFI, take advantage of that. And learn from those who have been in the trenches longer and who have the larger balance sheets, and collaborate where you can.
Great. And Noni, would you like to close us out?
Sure. I mean, to me, we're always looking at our coalition, what is our value add? What's our value add to our members, and what is our value add at the state level? And so being able to identify those opportunities, as I said earlier in my comments, I believe that one of our superpowers is the fact that we are cross-sector. And I advocate just as strongly for small business lenders as I do for housing lenders, right? I can speak with that voice, and I think having that unity in our voice and the fact that we're CDFIs, no matter what sector we're and what size and what composition, we are here, again, as those financial first responders and really want to be a partner. So I would encourage anyone that's not part of a coalition, join, and then if you don't have one, start one.
and we'll help you.
Exactly.
Reach out to us. We have all the stuff. Happy to help you.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing how your work grows.
Thank you.
What a great session highlighting the shifts in the policy landscape, but also the new opportunities that present ourselves at the state and local level. I hope you all enjoyed this morning's session and you feel energized to keep building the bipartisan support that the CDFI industry needs. Before I let you go, I just want to give you one quick update. The board election results will be released in the app later this afternoon, so be sure to check there to find out who's joining the OFN board. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.